plane. But it just feels to me that they might need someone on the inside to connect him.
I think you're exactly right, and maybe they have that person, because the fact that they've indicted him in a very high-profile case, they have to know that careers are on the line and they're being watched. So I think your theory makes a lot of sense. It probably makes the most sense.
Well, one of the things that's getting a lot of attention, and one of the things that prosecutors will use, A, probably to say he doesn't deserve bail and he shouldn't get a pretrial release, but B, what they would say builds up their case against him, is that he allegedly was fleeing the country. So in Lil Durk's criminal complaint, it says that the FBI received notifications from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, showing that Banks had been booked as a passenger on 2 international flights, a one-way flight from Miami to Dubai, United Arab Emirates, connecting through Doha, Qatar, scheduled to depart the evening of October 24th, and a one-way flight from Fort Lauderdale to Switzerland, connecting via New Jersey, also scheduled to depart the evening of October 24th. They say Banks did not board either flight, but at approximately 6:40 p.m., the FBI received an additional CBP notification that Banks had been booked as a passenger on a private plane departing Miami and scheduled for Italy. And that was scheduled to depart at approximately 9 p.m. And at approximately 8 p.m., so the hour before that was supposed to take off, Banks was arrested by law enforcement in the vicinity of the departing airport. Talk to me about the multiple ways, the different ways you can look at that.
Yeah, I mean, the different ways are the fact that the first 2 tickets were one way suggests that he wasn't planning on coming back. Now, the explanation for that is he's a wealthy guy, his plans change. He's not like the rest of us who need to book round-trip tickets to make it less expensive. He has access to private aircraft. But it is, it's circumstantial evidence, consciousness of guilt, intent to flee, and that's something that would be argued by both sides.
Bradford Cohen, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a renowned criminal defense attorney. He had such an interesting explanation for this. He said, well, what a lot of times you'll see clients do is they might know that they're about to be arrested. I mean, he knew maybe his co-defendants were about to be arrested. And sometimes what people will do when they think the feds are onto them, or authorities are onto them, they will book flights to see if they're flagged. And if they're flagged and they're red flagged, they know, oh, something's going on. I'm about to be arrested. I'm about to be indicted. Doesn't mean that they're going to take the flights. Doesn't mean that he was going to flee. But there could be another explanation for that. I thought that was fascinating, Ben.
That is fascinating. I'd never heard that, but it does make sense.
Yeah, because the government's not going to say, usually, right? The government's not going to say, hey, we're going to arrest you at 8 o'clock, I mean, there could be situations where you surrender, you might have an understanding of it, but that might be a way that he was trying to figure it out. I wanted to ask you one more.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry.
No, Ben, please continue.
No, I was going to say, and there could be reasons other than his being having consciousness of guilt for being concerned about being arrested, because obviously these are his associates, and it's not necessarily as incriminating as it might first appear.
Yeah. Or look the other way. Hey, my gosh, I'm innocent. They're going to come after me. This isn't good. I'm completely innocent. I'm taking off. I don't know. It's another explanation. Anyway, I wanted to ask you about this. So coded language, I think, is really, really interesting in criminal cases. I think it's really interesting in conspiracy cases or murder for hire cases. In the indictment, it reads, after the murder, co-conspirator 1 made clear in coded language that co-conspirator 1 would pay a bounty or monetary reward and or make payment to anyone who took part in killing TB. So let me ask you about that. It's interesting they say it's clear, but it's also coded language. How clear is coded language?
Well, that's going to be up for debate, and coded language, by definition, requires some kind of mechanism to decipher the code, and that would seem to open the way for reasonable doubt that it could have meant any number of alternative things, and it's a government's responsibility and burden to show that it is in fact clear.
Ben, before I let you go, one final thing. Whenever this case, if it goes to trial, when it goes to trial, you represent a celebrity at trial, what kind of jury do you want? Is it tough, the jury selection process in a celebrity trial?
The jury selection process is always extremely important. There are many lawyers, and you may be one, who thinks that the case is won or lost at voir dire. I'm not sure that's always true, but it's certainly important. I think in this case, he would want. I mean, I think Los Angeles is not a bad venue for him. It tends to be pretty pro celebrity. So I know he was arrested in Broward County, but I think he's in a much better spot. Of course, California tends to be more lenient than Florida anyway, but I think he's not in a bad spot. I think he's going to want jurors of color. I think he's going to want people, to the extent that he can divine this, people who like his music and people who follow popular culture generally. So I think that's what he's going to be looking for.
And that trial might not happen for a year, year and a half, 2 years. So we shall see. But Ben Chu, so good seeing you. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, Jesse. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.
I'm a black entrepreneur from Detroit. Voting plays a major role in creating opportunities for black entrepreneurs.
We built our business from the bottom. No shortcuts, no funding. Who I am is a black business person, and my most important role is to advocate for a more equitable economic environment for black Americans.
Most black successful entrepreneurs started off through government. A lot of states have minority business enterprise carve-outs for minority businesses.
Success isn't just about business. It's about leadership and showing up for your communities at any chance you get.
You could lead one person or you could lead 3,000 people. It doesn't matter. You just have to have them.
Hey, this is Mark Cuban. Thanks for watching me on Real Life Street Stars. Do yourself a favor. If you want to be rich, hit that subscribe button.
There was information, there was an alleged hit put out right after King Von's death, and wiretaps, and it's still a lot of information to come out. But like you said, if they had enough, why didn't they pick him up before they traveled to California? And if they knew they were going to California to commit this crime, why didn't they also follow the family and stop this case or stop this murder from happening?
Real life.
It ain't real. Real life street stars. Know what time it is.
Real life street stars, man. We got a very good situation coming back in regards to just another reaction video. We got attorney Larry Taylor II, the real life lawyer. First and foremost, how's the experience? How's everything going?
You know what, man? It's always a pleasure to be on this show and talking with you guys. Always proud to see what you guys are doing even when I'm not here. So just keep doing what you're doing. Real Life Productions is, I see big things for you in the future. Hopefully you guys will get a studio where other individuals like yourselves can come and grow and value.
No, thank you so much, man. We actually used to have a studio. A lot of, I don't want to say legal activities going on, but, you know, some illegalities were going on to where we had to go and shut it down. But no, we will do it again, and it will be done right.
But we're talking about not just that, but we're talking about movie production. Yeah.
See, I'm talking about rappers. You know, rappers on the line right now.
No. You guys, I'm seeing you guys as the Tyler Perry group for Dallas County and the Dallas area. So I see big things for you guys.
Yeah, I would love a Tyler Perry-esque studio. And again, shout out Tyler Perry because I just watched Beauty and Black on Netflix. I ran through like all the episodes in one night. I'm like, this is, man, he just telling the craziest art color people stories. I'm like, I don't know where he pulls it from. Anyway, let's do it like this, man. You know, we like to get your reaction on things that, of course, take place out in the world, and just look at it from a legal standpoint. Again, you know, we ask questions based on criminal law, civil law, and things of that nature. And we just love your expertise. A lot of fans, they just say, hey, we like the well-dressed, well-groomed, well-educated man to come out here and speak. So we got you. We're going to bring you back all the time.
All right, I appreciate that. And like I told the people, as long as they want to see me, I'll come back.
Man, there you go. And with that being said, Larry, I have to get your take on the Dirk situation, man. Lil Durk, of course, as people may know, is a famous rapper. He, of course, has been arrested for murder for hire. And it's funny because, and I'll ask you, when it comes to murder for hire, how often do you see that from a celebrity? How often do they try to pull that card?
You know, it's always in the history of film or media or even music, you've always seen those type things. I mean, we can go back, not as far back, but as short as Tupac and Biggie. Those were both cases that we as partakers in the rap and hip hop industry always felt that there was always something behind it, right? Because it was both of those crimes didn't involve any immediate beef, or at least not big. I mean, I know Tupac had a situation in the casino right before, but other than that, the distance was so far in between what may have happened that we always felt like there was something else behind it, and you know, now we know.
When you see murder for hire, again, we normally hear from, of course, the Gotti days and the gangster days of RICO, which is technically hits are put out and they try to get it under a criminal organization of people. It's very rare you see a direct murder for hire and a murder get carried out where we're saying, hey, based on information we've collected, this is what the arrest warrant is for. Basically, you know, hiring someone to assassinate somebody.
Correct.
Do you think, and again, I don't know much of the knowledge of the overall case, but do you think that if they have that's what they're going for, was the best thing to go for versus maybe as a gang, you know, OTF is a gang, or allegedly they are, let's say, gang members, if they could have proven, wouldn't it be better to go for like the gang RICO if they were to try to utilize, hey, there's multiple crimes going on here and this is just one of them?
I honestly think that the YSL trial has taught law enforcement, right? Because potential jurors, it's really hard for them to buy into a group of members of a record label, quote unquote, being a gang. So even in the indictment, they talk about them being more of a music affiliation than gang members. Now they say they are members of gangs, but they don't necessarily tie the two together in blatantly. They don't say that OTF is a gang. So they say that they're a group of individuals who are affiliated with this particular record label, which is smart, which is very smart. Now, once they start really getting into the criminal history, if they can tie them all into the same potential gang association, that might be something that they can come back to. But you always got to remember that the first indictment is not necessarily the last indictment. It's just enough to get people in behind bars, potentially get people to talk, and then other charges can grow from that.
So let's just go into the arrest itself, and then we'll work backwards. Federal charges were placed on him. Lil Durk was arrested, from what they say, trying to get on an airplane, a private jet, to go to Italy. they said that they had, I guess he tried to throw the police off by trying to book a flight to like Switzerland, Italy, England. There's like 3 different locations outside the country. Just hearing that alone, let's just start with that. Just saying, hey, I'm gonna book 3 separate flights and just pick one to go on. What is that? Is that concerning from a defense side? Is that like almost like, look at that, we got them from a prosecution side? Or is that just, hey, some people just like to book multiple flights and pick where they want to go once they get there?
I mean, it's all of the above, right? So, for example, if I'm booking a flight, let's say, for example, I want to go to Miami, or I want to go to Cabo. I might book a flight on multiple airlines just based on the whole cancellation situation. Or he could have booked those flights based on what opportunities. He could have had a gig in each one of them that was pending, but he needed to book those flights in order to make any of them. And so there's always a potential rationale behind why you would do those type of things. Now, some of you guys are going to say, well, that's not normal. Well, neither is buying a Bentley or buying an airplane. We all don't do that, but there are some people who do. And so we can't say that that's out of the norm when it is in the norm for other people.
How does it work if he did get on that plane? They got him 1 hour before he got on it. If he was on that plane, and again, just from your knowledge of it, what happens once he's on that plane and that plane has left the runway, is in the air? Can they just make a phone call and say, hey, turn that thing around? Or can he get to Italy? And if so, what, when people hear words like extradition, like what could happen if he got to Italy and say, I'm going to just cruise around the country, until y'all come get me or something?
Well, it's always a gamble, because until you get through customs, you really technically haven't gotten into that country. And so if they know where he's going, they could have easily had agents posted outside of customs to actually get him or acquire him prior to him going through customs. And then it just depends on the country and where he landed, if they do have extradition. And so if they have extradition, it could have been all for naught. And so you have to look at, and I think one of the countries he was going to, one of the locations he was going to, they have extradition, so I wasn't really understanding that. Sometimes people fly into places just to get to another place and potentially get people off of their trail. But some of the problems that he had was some of those flights had layovers. And some of them had layovers in the U.S. I think one of them had a layover in New York. And so there were several flights that potentially had layovers where he could have potentially got picked up at that point.
They had wiretaps on him. When you hear that, I guess the other guys got arrested for the actual murder from back in 2022 of Quando Rondo's friend, and let's say he gets word of that, you would assume that with a wiretap, hey, let's move in before anything happens. Like, technically we got enough. Let's keep him here. No more, no surprises. Let's just go grab him. And I think it was a local bounty. It wasn't the feds that picked him up. It was like a local police force grabbed him, kept him in a Florida jail until the feds came and got him, extradited him back to Los Angeles County to face these charges.
Hold on. Just want to make sure I correct you. I thought I heard you say they weren't federal charges. They were federal charges.
They were federal charges.
It was just a local agency that picked them up.
Local agency.
Because sometimes listeners can be vicious when you make a mistake. So I just want to make sure we were clear on that.
Very much federal charges. It's just the feds weren't the ones that put their hands on them at the time of. And let me just ask, once it came about, just from a law standpoint, immediately, what is your take on it? Just from a law standpoint of you being, whether defense, prosecution, a judge, what is your take on a high-profile rapper gets arrested for murder for hire, and knowing that Lil Durk, knowing just from your history of hearing about King Von, Quando Rondo, all these things have been happening since 2020. what was your take on, like, man, Dirk, dang, what you still, like, give me your take, what was going on in your mind when you saw that?
So first of all, as a black man,
Yes.
right,
Start with that.
who grew up in a similar community, my prayers go out to all the families that lost loved ones. King Von's family, the family of the rapper out of California, you know, because, and the guy who also died in Atlanta when all of this started. You know, these are unnecessary loss of life. And so we want to make sure that we respect those families. But as far as the criminal investigation goes, I'm a little leery because reading the indictment, it sounds as if I don't really know how seasoned this person or the investigator was on this particular case. And so there were a couple of things throughout, like you said, this happened in 2022, you know, and there was information, there was an alleged hit put out right after King Von's death, and wiretaps, and it's still a lot of information to come out, but like you said, if they had enough, why didn't they pick them up before they traveled to California? And if they knew they were going to California to commit this crime, why didn't they also follow the family and stop this case or stop this murder from happening, right? How many times have we seen, you know, people about to commit an act or a crime and law enforcement swoop in before they actually commit it?
Very true.
So there are a lot of questions, you know, because if that was the case, then that case wasn't that strong. And it really sounds like they really have them on a murder case, right? They have them on the video. They have them getting out of the car. They have them going to an In-N-Out burger after the murder, and the same vehicles and without the mask on, so they have their faces. But then the question comes in, you know, is it a murder charge that took place in California? And they're just using the fact that they used funds through credit cards or through some kind of wire transfer to bring in the feds to make it a federal case.
Very true.
We talked about that before.
Correct.
Right? And so, you know, if it wasn't, you almost ask yourself, if it wasn't the situation where they used airlines or, you know, they conspired in Chicago, if they came up with the idea in Atlanta, in California, will we still be looking at these murder or these federal charges, or will we be looking at more state charges?
And I never understand why it goes either federal or state. And what is the purpose of that, as far as federal has more leeway to utilize resources to indict you, or the state, like, why does it sometimes go from federal and not just handled by the state, kind of like the YSL is strictly on state?
So not going all the way back to first year law school, but
take you back.
But anytime that you start using interstate commerce, right? Whether it's roads, so if I kidnap someone in Dallas and then I transport them to Louisiana, I'll cross state line. Therefore, now the feds are involved. The same way, anytime that you use any of the gateways that federal agencies kind of control, then now you basically put yourself in their prison. So when you use Cash App, Zelle, any of those things to transfer money, you now entered into the realms of the Fed.
Wow, there you go, man. So try to stay within the state lines, I guess. Don't do no crimes.
There you go.
Don't do no crimes.
Don't do any crimes.
Let me ask you, because again, we're about to touch on a couple of different things, but let's just touch on the actual incident itself that they're speaking on, which, of course, a cousin of Quando Rondo, who was involved in the King Von shooting back in 2020, was with Quando Rondo in a black SUV, in which, like you said, men came up, of course, opened fire. They say missing their target, if we're going off of, you know, allegations, and of course, killing one of Quando Rondo's cousin. The guys fled the scene, kept it at that, and then you see, and again, this is just now they start unsealing things and seeing what they have. Is that Dirk asked them to, hey guys, don't use my name or don't use your real names. He
Booking the flight.
Yeah, to book the flights. You see that they have, again, alleged evidence that he booked the rental vehicles for them to get on, purchasing masks with credit cards attached to Dirk's name and the OTF family. We were talking off camera a little earlier about how that works when it calls for a murder for hire. Someone just says, hey man, don't use your real names when you go out there. Don't use my name. Just, don't use my name for clout or whatever. Whatever y'all go out, do out there, go do, but just don't use my name. Sometimes when you're in the music industry and you're the breadwinner, you use your company or LLCs and they say, hey, I need to book a rental car. Well, here, use the company credit card. And therefore it's linked back to that person. Is that technically for you, is that a red alarm just because he said, hey, don't use my name? Hey, let me help you guys get this ski mask, or they use the company to get a ski mask, or use a company credit card or even his own credit card to get a rental. Does that alert you like to the left, like, yeah.
Actually, could be just the opposite. When I first read it, potentially the first thing that came to my mind was he trying to prevent this from happening? Hey, man, look, really don't do this, but don't include me in any of it. Don't use my name, don't book flights under my credit card using your names, don't do any of that. And so it can work either way. What's going to be real interesting from a criminal defense standpoint, did he have a show? Did he have an appearance out there? Was he coming to see real street stars, California?
Come on now.
Right? The California office.
It's coming.
Yeah. Was he going out there to see that? And did that just so happen to coincide with what took place? And so that's the thing. When we get these indictments and they go through the preliminary information, they have information, but they have information from either informants who are just feeding them things, and we learn from, the YSL trial. Police officers are fed things, sometimes based off of what people think that they want to hear, and are not really based on fact or truth.
Does that mean that, of course, what their goal is, hey, based on what we have, we just want to, again, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. But based on what we have,
that's not really true, but go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard the opposite.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Everybody's guilty until they can show they didn't do a damn thing.
Right, and that's kind of what happens when they say, hey, no bond. You ain't going nowhere, because they want to basically say, hey, we have this on you. Prove it to us that you're innocent. Let be judged by your peers. When it comes to, and again, they say no question's a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it either way.
Bring it on.
If he had said, hey, I'm going to pay you guys, go out there, if y'all see Quando, Rondo, and just rough them up a little bit. He ain't say nothing about just rough them up a little bit, man. Get down on them folks. And it turns into a murder that happened after, let's say a scuffle. Can that be considered murder for hire? Is that something that someone will go for?
Anytime that you are in the commission of a crime, you're responsible for anything that happens during that commission. So even if one of his people died, murder's still attached to that. And so anytime that you're doing something that has the risk of someone getting injured or killed, and you take that on, you also take on those potential criminal liabilities. And in this case, saying going to rough someone up, you got to ask yourself, how many people have died from just a regular fist fight?
That's true.
You hit someone, they fall back, they hit their head and die.
It's murder.
Manslaughter at least. Yeah. And so you're still responsible for those acts that take place, even if your guys didn't do it.
Okay, that's a little tough right there. So what if again, hypothetically, if there was no money involved, there was no credit cards bought, but he just basically said, "Hey, man, listen, just being dirt, just being influential. Hey, man, you guys go out there, y'all see that dude, man, y'all need to do something to that boy, man. Just be a text message. Does that put him in the line of fire if just that text message exists and something happens that leads to something where like there's no money, I didn't buy nothing, but I just said be a text man. Hey man, dude's at a party, you want to do something, man? Y'all do something to that boy."
The conspiracy, the potential of that happening is high in the sense that if the conspiracy still was hatched in Chicago, and then they went to LA, they're crossing several state lines in order to commit a crime. I mean, beating someone up is not legal.
Yeah, it's assault.
Right. It's still extremely problematic. And so, one of the things that I'm also questioning, right? You said murder for hire.
I keep saying murder for hire.
Murder for hire. I'm not exactly sure, but how many of those individuals were not affiliated with that record label? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And if they were affiliated with that record label and basically getting paid and getting taken care of anyway,
I didn't question the hire.
is that still murder for hire? Because he put the indictment says he put a bounty on it.
Correct. They said there was $1 million bounty.
Right. So there's a bounty, but no one acted on it but the people who were already under your custody and control. So was there really a bounty?
So the question would be, Lil Durk was, his comments, everyone was requesting that he, quote unquote, slide for Von. Do something in retaliation for King Von. Why aren't you doing something? And they were screaming that for years up until 2022. Now, Von, I mean, with Durk, I don't know if, again, he plays into it, but music he started putting out started to kind of lean towards, we already did that, after 2022. Interviews he's done. He just did a famous interview with Academics that's kind of making his rounds, where Academics asked him, is he tired of seeing the slide for Von comments? His response was something to the like of, I'm not seeing him anymore. Like, I don't see him as much. And to say things like that online, to insinuate that something may have taken place, what are your thoughts, if you're called to, hey, I need to, I need you to I need to lower you up, I need you. Larry, what can you get from him? When you see things like that kind of come to the light of day, what is your take on those things?
Circumstantial, man. I mean, I think a good lawyer will be able to explain those things away to a jury to help them understand, right? If I drop hot coffee on my lap and I jump up and cursing and I'm angry and you're in the room, does that mean I really have the intention to attack you? Right? If you're just going off of what I said in my actions, right, there could be something else behind that. And it's that something else that really determines what's based on that action and what's said. He could literally have meant, hey man, I don't see him as much anymore. He didn't really say why. Unless he said, I took care of that, people know I took care of that, and that's why they're not saying nothing about that anymore. So I don't know why you're saying anything. Unless something like that took place. Literally, he just made an observation and saying, I don't see him that much anymore.
With that being said, a lot of things can and will be probably considered circumstantial. The one thing that, of course, is not circumstantial is a wiretapping that was worn by one of his guys by the name of OTF Jam. Now, allegedly. We don't know. Yeah, again, we don't know nothing until nothing comes out. So we're gonna definitely use allegedly throughout.
And hold on, man. Before we go any further, the reason why I say allegedly because we've already learned this isn't a game. Like, this isn't a game that somebody gets hurt, we turn it off, and they come back and they're healthy and alive. So this man who allegedly wore a wire, where is the evidence? Where is his name? Because there's not going to be any in the indictment. We don't know if it's conspirator number 1, number 2, number 3, whatever conspirator they said or labeled. But I am going to caution anyone from putting this man's face or likeness or stating that he actually did this, because there still could be people out there that would take action against him, and he's not the person. He didn't wear a wire. I mean, we've seen that before where the media or someone has stated that someone did something and they actually didn't do it, and it ended up costing them their lives or one of their family members' lives. So I would say let's hold off on that. But talking about wearing a wire, let's just say anybody.
Let's say anybody.
Let's say conspirator X.
Well, let's talk about hypothetical.
Okay.
Hypothetically, someone goes to reach out to this young man to say, hey, he's incarcerated son. We need you to get some information and intel on one of your members. Is that a tactic that you heard of that police would do to let criminals out early to get someone else? Like, is that a thing?
Man, that is a thing every day, all day.
Oh, wow.
That is, think about it. You serving 20. You've been in there 5. People out here rolling around in Bentleys, BMWs, kissing their kids every night, and you saying to yourself, I want to go home. I want to see my mama. I hope my girl still ride with me. Come on. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to put on this microphone and go and talk to people and ask them simple questions. Now, I ain't making nobody answer, right? I didn't make him answer the question. If I ask you a question, you answer it in a way that law enforcement can use it. Some people might say, well, that's, in their mind, they might say that's on you. And I get, look, we're going to hear the code, right? The code, we talked about that.
Yep.
You know, no one snitches, no one says anything, no one does anything wrong. I mean, not does anything wrong, no one says anything to law enforcement to harm or to have someone else arrested or jailed. It's not the same. When I practiced criminal law several years ago, and sometimes it seems like since this has creeped back to my life, there's always someone willing to talk.
Yeah.
I told the young man once, I said, look, man, I don't represent you. You do what you want to do, right? I'm just here to make sure that whatever you decide to do, I give you the best chance. And so, matter of fact, I didn't end up representing him, but I was friends of the family, and I was kind of just helping their lawyer out. But I told him, I said, look, man, I guarantee you, it's 5 of y'all. First one that talks is going to do the least amount of time. Period. The least amount of time.
There you go.
He said, nah, we tight. Ain't nobody talking. Got a call. Somebody talked. He was arrested. Now he's in jail.
That's all. Somebody's gonna press. Somebody's gonna fall.
Man, everybody not hurting you, brother.
So, when it comes to wiretapping,
right?
I'm curious, how creative can the federal government get? People were saying that he might have a hat on in the brim of the hat. You know, there's something in the hat. You know, hey, you got a jacket, you got a hoodie on, you got something in the lining of the hoodie. How creative can wiretap? How creative have they gotten, from your knowledge, as far as someone being able to record, use a recording device to get information off somebody?
All right, public service now.
Let's go.
Watch any of your MI5 movies, Mission Impossible movies. look at any of the social media sites that advertise the world's smallest camera that you can put anywhere, and then you make the decision on how inventive and how creative they could be. I mean, man, you have people with cameras in their shoes doing nefarious things. So, you know, and now you talk about the federal government, somebody.
Yeah, they got Ray-Ban glasses that right now you could just buy, just walk around recording people with glasses on, shades.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. So, you tell me, and that's the general public.
That's the general public.
You talking about the feds? Come on, man. They could be in that. I ain't gonna say. I almost said something, but you know, I was gonna say they could be G.I. Joe right now, be in the room and have some kind of stealth technology, and we can't see them. I don't really believe that, but I'm just saying they are the federal government.
Like you said, everyone stop right now, go to Amazon and just look for the smallest camera. You're gonna get inspired.
Man, come on, man. It's several spot shops in Dallas.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. How does that? Because again, we're just going with allegedly that this guy is wearing a wire for somewhat of what's considered 4 years. So again, all alleged. We're just playing in the water, make believe, let's just say. For 2018 to 2024, is that around the time frame that it takes to like that's like what if it goes for 10 years? Doesn't the federal government have to keep they have to keep, what is it called? Not a warrant, but to have funding to keep paying for this for years? Like, y'all got to bring back something. We can't just go 4 years a guy wearing a wiretap. Now, mind you, I watched The Wire, and it looked like this stuff lasted for a while. So I'm just curious, how far can the feds monitor someone and no crime is being committed? Let's just say, like, are we just gonna just watch a person for the rest of their life?
Until the Treasury is empty. Let me tell you once again, they will follow you until the Treasury is empty. And I think our first show, we talked about that. I had a case in which my client 100% did not do it. They didn't do it. And when I went and talked to the agent and to the ADA, they were like, look, man, we done spent too much money. Somebody got to get it.
Yeah. That's how it always be on the crime shows. It's always like, even watching like Power, they're like, how long gonna follow the guy? You gotta arrest him or something. Like, you do something. And I just wonder, do the federal government quit, or do they go until, hey, we're not gonna. This is all not gonna be for naught. We're gonna find something.
You know, man, the federal government and the people involved in the federal government are no different than you and I, right? If you could get Denzel Washington on this show, or someone besides this plain face lawyer on here, you would do it.
Yes.
Right? Because it would help the brand. It would promote you as someone who can get an A-list actor on your show. Well, same thing for prosecutors. I can prosecute and lock up a high-profile individual. This dude won a Grammy.
Just won a Grammy. Oh my! Anyway,
Right. The song that won't stop playing. It's a great song.
Yeah.
Love it to death. Very inspirational.
Yeah.
And that's why you hate to see it. But something like this, right? Someone who is aspiring, dude just got the keys to the city for his philanthropy.
Just got taken right back.
Right? And so the fact that you can, what's that? People talk about it all the time. The higher you climb, the more people want to pull you down,
Yes.
and the further you have to fall.
Correct.
They want the same thing, right? They can come in and get, let's throw Rook under the table since he ain't here.
Yeah.
They can come in and get Rook. But, I mean, he might make the Dallas Morning. But if they come in here and get, one of Dallas's favorite artists, then that makes international numbers.
Yeah. It does. It's Steve Z status.
Right. And now the prosecutor or the in that area, you saw it on Power. Get him, and it's gonna help my career.
So I look at it like kind of like a workman's comp claim, right? You know, they're like, hey, this guy's faking this back injury. Let's follow him around for a little while. Let's follow. And like that's what I'm saying. Like, how long? 6 months of recording him walking out his house and doing things where he has to put on the show. Like, unless they're like, we're gonna get him, we're just gonna put all our funds into like, hey, for years we're gonna watch him until like, man, he must be okay. Do you feel like that the federal government has a thing out for artists, rappers, people of influence, of even our color or just whatever? You feel like when they're put on, they're bloodhounds, basically.
Right. It's
speak your mind.
No, it's I want to say it's one of those situations, man, where everybody got it tight.
I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to say anything more than that.
Yeah,
and the fact that you just look and see what they type is.
Do you feel it's because rappers now, and again, we look at like BG is out, we look at YSL trial where they're trying to put lyrics against them. Chicago is known for drill rap. Because they put this music out there that influences the masses, do you feel like that always will put a target on a rapper's back who chooses to rap about violence and getting away and walking them down and murder, shoot, kill, bang? Do you feel like that's always going to put a target on their back to get watched, surveillanced? Just they're asking for it, basically.
Ask NWA in the 80s.
I wonder how many times they got pulled over. How many police were at their shows?
Come on, man. Come on. You know what I'm saying? If you ever out there speaking truth to power, or talking about or describing your communities that aren't like everyone else's community, or speaking about our community in a sense of what's going on, then yeah, people are going to be looking at you because they're going to want to know why. How do you know this? How do you know at 6 in the morning?
Right.
Police at your door. You know what I'm saying? How do you know this?
And if in their lyrics they say, this was my partner's story, this is my story. I know from experience, like if that's in the song, like, okay, wait a minute now. We got some open cases in this area that ain't nobody solved yet. I mean, it's just funny because it's like you seem like you invite, like, yeah, I want you to look at that situation that happened at that 7-Eleven at 3 a.m. where,
Bro, we talked about it.
Yeah.
We talked about the fact that law enforcement is looking, it's like, okay, that sounds like this. Oh, we didn't tell people that it was a shotgun. We just said they were shot. Okay, what else you got? So you came in through the window. We were wondering how you got in there because both doors were locked from the inside. And so they just started going through, well, thank you, sir. Thank you for telling on yourself. And thank you for assisting us because we're about to take this rap lyric, this crime scene, and we're about to make a Reese's Pieces. Because this chocolate and this peanut butter is going to be delicious sweetness and sending you to jail.
See, the crazy part of that is, if you read any of these guys' rap lyrics to a jury, of course, it's like let's just read the whole song. And then like, this is going to paint a picture of a person where like, you should not be able to use the lyrics though against a person, but to be able to say, here's what kind of person this is. Listen to these lyrics. What he'll do to a woman after the club and then see his op and then bam, and then that kind of paints a picture for the jury to look at a man a certain way. Like, wow, is that what kind of monster this is?
Man.
And it could just be for the form of entertainment.
Brother, we talked about that.
Yeah, I know we did. I keep bringing it back up.
Yeah, we talked about country music lyrics, right? You know, people running trucks through trailer homes and running over dudes who are sleeping with their ex-wife, right?
It doesn't work in your alimony case.
No. And so, they don't use their lyrics. They don't use lyrics by rock stars talking about getting high or using illicit drugs. They're not drug busting them every day and using their lyrics to say, oh, see, he's on LSD all the time. He says it right here.
Right.
They don't do that, but because of
the violence sometimes associated with these rap lyrics. And, man, another PSA. Stop rapping about gang activity or murders or robberies that you were not a part of, and just taking what you've heard from off the streets and making a song about it. Because you're putting yourself in view of law enforcement or whoever was robbed or whoever was killed for something to happen to you.
No, facts.
Leave that alone, man.
Thank you for that PSA. I seen a rapper rap about scamming Chase. Well, and then he got arrested for scamming Chase. I was like, well, I mean, that wasn't hard. If that's what you want. I mean, it was a good song. But, man, you just gave instructions of exactly how you're trying to teach other people how to do it. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you could do that. But, and you, like you said, a lot of people live through other people's truths, and they want to tell another person's story. And I think that was almost, you got a thumbs up for that. Like, man, that sounds like, you know, a day in the life of Chicago, let's say. And it sometimes is an open crime that it might lead to something else. So, again, you know, I'm not for gangster rap in general. So, you know, but to each his own. I want to ask you, Larry, as far as with this Dirk thing, you just mentioned, of course, him getting a key to the city. You mentioned him getting a Grammy with J. Cole. I believe the mayor of that portion of the city immediately asked for the key back. She made a statement that, you know, I know everyone's innocent until proven guilty and all that, but, you know, based on just what this is from a PR standpoint, yeah, we want that key back, because I don't, you know, hell, you don't need it anyway. I mean, what are your thoughts on that as far as just, you know, again, that kind of makes you see that it almost adds on to the guilt that they're trying to seek? Because I'm sure that mayor don't have the information that the feds have. But what's your take on that?
Man, we're talking about an award.
We're talking about.
We're not talking about anything that you necessarily earned or that you are due. You know, that's not your award. That award was given because you put out a certain public persona. And once that persona is ruined or something happens to the contrary, then they have a right to come back and say, okay, you know what? You fooled me, but I need that back. I need that back. I mean, if you really want to talk about, what did they do? They took, what's my guy's name? The running back. They took his Heisman.
They took his Heisman?
Because he was it Reggie
Bush?
Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
But they gave it back, though.
It's almost like an endorsement deal. Like, hey, just because something's alleged, hey, man, it's just business.
Right.
You can't be the face of the company because of, not even if you did a crime, it's just, we just don't want you as a face. So it's more so saying we're going to take that back. Not saying you're guilty.
Right.
We're just saying we don't want to be part of the conversation around why we gave it to you a week ago.
And we don't want that to constantly be the story.
Correct.
Right? Because if they take it back, then the story isn't really the man of the year or key of the city recipient. You're not saying that anymore because they no longer are that recipient.
Yeah.
So now it's just them in that case.
Correct. Yeah. Take away titles, like Game of Thrones, strip you of titles and whatever.
But I am using it in his criminal defense.
Right. The goal is to win.
Yeah.
Whoever, both sides, it's a chess match. The goal is to win. So yes. With that being said, just real quick for Dirk, what is your take on his chances? Should he have at least gotten a bond? I think he just went to go to a bond hearing when he got to LA. I think he's on a no bond, I believe. I'm not mistaken. I'll probably have to check. But if he has no bond, what are your thoughts as far as his chances? Should he at least have a bond? I know we're just dealing with the Diddy situation with no bond.
Well, same rationale behind the Diddy situation. What did I say in that? I said because he left and showed it and he has the means, they were going to no bond him. And sure enough, they no bonded him. Right? Yeah. And then the judge is like, okay, we're gonna make this trial quick. And so now the pressure's on the prosecution because they have to get ready to try this case, because if they're not ready to try this case, then the defense is going to come back and say,
We need a bond.
Do you feel the federal government even arrest someone without being ready to try a case? Like,
Of course.
you think they jump the gun and say, let's
Come
just get
on,
them?
man.
But what's the murder? If it's a murder for hire, the murder already happened. That's why I'm wondering why they didn't go RICO or anything of that nature. Because you wait 2 years to do a murder for hire based on the stuff you have.
You didn't have enough.
Okay.
You didn't have enough.
Yeah.
And that could be part of the problem. When were these alleged wires done? Were they done in, the murder happened in 2022. Were the wires done in 2023? Were the wires done in early 2024? When were these wires allegedly done?
Yeah, I think that's what gives it that, because sometimes when if something happens, a murder for hire, and like, hey, I'm gonna pay you, but you gotta let things die down, and you wait, 19 months, 24 months. All right, now I'm gonna slide some money to you for some other reason.
But we're talking about the wire.
Yeah.
When did that take place? Did it happen in 2022? I know I read some things that said that the alleged person was arrested and released during that time period. Then at that point, I'm kind of like you. Why wasn't an arrest made before it happened? But if this wire happened in 2023, 2024, man, I forget what the people do with their fingers and sniffing and all that other stuff, but I could say that Dirk might have been set up and basically set up to admit to a crime that he wasn't involved in. And I get that they have that text message, but it was real weird in the indictment that they hung their hat on a statement saying, "Don't use my name."
I thought what would come out of it.
Yeah, don't use me, don't associate me with these flights. And I'm like,
Yeah, if there is a wire, if there is if they have recordings, I think it's more so we're gonna get them on something else on top of this. We just gotta grab them and get them in. So
we'll see.
We'll see. Again, innocent to proven guilty, and like you said, it might be guilty to proven innocent in some situations.
It's a lot happening in Florida right now.